She's physically larger than the worker bee.
Oh, the space. Okay. Oh, okay.
Her body is much longer than as her second.
Sure.
Oh, I got it.
So we, you have everybody great, you have everybody fired up?
Yep.
Good evening, everyone. At this time, I would like to call this June 18th, 2024 meeting to order. Will you please rise with me for the pledge of allegiance and moment of silence?
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Madam Secretary, please call the roll.
Mr. Kliskevich.
Here.
Mr. Lister.
Here.
Ms. Lloyd.
Ms. White?
Ms. Miller.
Here.
Ms. Reed.
Here.
Mr. Reddinger.
Here.
Ms. Willenbecker is not here.
At this time, I'd like to report on our last executive session. We discussed matters of real estate litigation and personnel. No action was taken. At this time, do I have public comment on agenda items only? Seeing no public comment, agenda item number 1.
Do I have a motion to approve council meeting minutes for June 4th, 2024 meeting as submitted?
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Councilor Kluskevich, second by Councilor Lister. Any questions or comments on the minutes? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Aye.
Motion carries. Agenda item number 2.
Do I have a motion to approve payment of bills as shown on the accounts payable list dated June 13th, 2024, which is for the period of May 31st, 2024 through June 13th, 2024, and to ratify approval of such bills already paid and to authorize the appropriate officials to take required actions to make those payments?
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Councilor Reed, second by Councilor Kluskevich. Any questions or comments? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. At this time, with no objection, I'd like to skip to agenda item number 6.
Mr. President, we have Josh Sheets with us tonight of HRG to present his proposal on the potential study of the spaces within the borough.
Thanks, Ken. So yeah, as you guys know, a few months back, we had engaged with borough staff. They had expressed some needs for an expansion of the electric department. We worked with our architect, Jim Crum here, who had a role in preparing the capital improvement plan back in the 2000 teens. So we provided kind of a pretty in-depth and robust planning level effort for that site. And in doing so, staff kind of came back and expressed some interest in kind of looking at a more holistic look at the existing facility, kind of taking a step back rather than focusing on just one. So what we have is we've prepared kind of concept level expansion study, kind of looking at the current space you guys have, how your equipment's dispersed throughout the borough at various facilities, and then looking at those 3 separate departments to kind of determine needs and future space needs to kind of give you guys a little bit more information to make further decisions on whether you want to continue to plan all 3 of those projects kind of one. Kind of just gives you guys a level of magnitude. So I have Jim here. We'd love to engage with you guys, talk to you a little bit more. I think Jim could probably give a little bit better of a kind of overview of the planning process and how that would look, and help answer any questions you guys may have about the study. You want to kind of give us a quick overview there?
Thank you, Josh. Good evening, everyone. Jim Crum, architect. As Josh said, I was here, I think it was 2018 when we completed the capital improvement plan. At that time, we had the ability to walk through all of the buildings with the staff and prepare a report following up now, it appears that we're trying to take this proposal and focus on what we see as the most viable options. One being sort of expansion and reworking of the electric department as it sits at, I think it is 300 West of May Street. And the second option is to look at expanding and reworking the highway department at Wilson and Grant. And there's a third option, which might be to relocate the police department and use the entire facility at Emos Street for the electric department. In doing that, we would evaluate with the staff the spatial needs of each of those departments, prepare a sketch plan at a high level, as Josh has indicated. This is, rather than get down to the level at this point of doors and windows and room sizes, we're looking at the overall size of the buildings or potential improvements or changes and how they would relate to the physical site where they stand now. These proposals all include working within the existing parameters of the properties that you own, the sites that you have your departments on now. From that, we would develop a illustrative site plan that shows the buildings in block form, the size, any site improvements in sense of just allowing you to know what they are, not necessarily designing them, but to know that we might have stormwater, we might have parking, we might have a driveway or something to add. And taken from those plans, then prepare an overall opinion of probable cost for each of those three options. The idea is that it gives you a concise sense of, I think, what are the three primary sort of situations that you're in, which is in need of work for the electric department, highway department, and related to that somewhat, the police department.
So,
Any questions?
yeah, I have a few questions for you.
Sure.
Although I do see a need to look at a space study for the highway department, electric department, I am really confused on why we would need to look at the police department. Have you been through the police department? And you said you walked through 2018?
Yes, I was.
Would you agree that right now the police department is constructed up of mostly offices?
My understanding is the department is, I guess I'll say, from what I've seen, sort of happy in their existing location.
That was not my question. My question is the makeup of the police department right now would consist of 2 floors, second floor being office space with cubicles, first floor
Right.
being some more office space and a locker room and a garage for the patrol cars and evidence. Does that sound accurate?
Yes.
So I guess what I'm getting at is the police department right now as it sits fits the police department. An electric department, I don't see a lot of need for office space. Linemen don't need office space. Linemen need large storage facilities, big overhead garages with doors. I don't see how we would take that building without doing a lot of work to it to fit the needs of an electric department when it's already fitted out for a police department. Police officers need offices. They need to be able to do reports. They need to be able to do research. It's set for police officers. It's not, that building is not meant for industrial use, such as an electric company or an electrical department. So I do see the need that we do need to look at some of our existing infrastructures and how we can grow our electric department and our public works department. I think the diving into the police is just, it's not worth our time and money. That's my opinion.
Just to be clear, the first option is to leave the police where they are, and on that lot, reconfigure the sort of the additional space that's there for the electric department.
Yeah, and I mean, feedback like this is exactly what we're looking for. You know, if we miss the mark on something here based on our meeting that we had with staff, or council wants us to go a different direction, I mean, this is great dialogue that we can, you know, get our heads back together and revise that. So if that's something we want to, you know, put our line in the sand and say the police department's not moving, we can look to expand the existing electric facilities to what we can on the site, or potentially look for other sites. We can certainly go that route. Rather than even using that as an option. That was just one of the things discussed with staff.
Yeah, my opinion is right now the police department is a well-oiled machine. It's running very smooth.
Yep.
They haven't expressed any needs with their current location. And if we can expand or grow that existing location, to help fit the electric department's needs, I'm all in favor for that.
Mhm.
Without disrupting,
Sure.
our current infrastructure and the police department's current needs. I just don't think it's money well spent to uproot all of that. I mean, their building's it's not that old.
Initially, that building was the electric department sold.
Well, whoever designed it initially did a really bad job because it's office spaces and our alignment don't need office spaces.
Initially, there were no office spaces when the electric department was out there, except that main where the secretary is now. There used to be a room right there, but the rest of the building was all set up for the electric department. The upstairs was vacant. There was nobody up there. The only time that anybody went up on the second floor was when the police department went in there.
Do you know why that was vacant upstairs?
Uh,
I can tell you why. Because the electric department, it's dead space. You can't store heavy pieces of equipment, transformers.
No,
How
you
do you get them up and down staircases?
no, you couldn't do that up there.
So it becomes dead space and linemen don't need offices.
I think we did store stuff for the historical society or somebody in that building at one
But not the electric department.
No,
Exactly.
no.
Mr. President,
Mayor?
may I say something?
Absolutely.
I just want to thank you, everyone, Josh, HRT, for coming. Appreciate your attendance. I too would ask for a revamped retainer based on what the president has said. I have to agree. And in fact, your own retainer in the second to last paragraph indicates, quote, while there are no current space or facility issues for the police department, end quote. I don't see the need to include that in this. I'm not sure what percentage of this retainer is dedicated to that, but you do have a whole section, task 1C for the police department. I think that should be excluded. And to kind of echo what President Redinger said, this has been a long path to get the police department where it is today. They are running efficiently. They like their location. The public safety director likes the location. I like the location. The community, there has been no complaints about the location. I see no need to involve the police at all. I think we can probably just move forward with addressing the other two departments.
And for the record, I think it's a good idea to look at the other two departments, and I think it's a great idea to look at how we can grow in that existing space, the electric department's footprint. Absolutely. I just, like the mayor stated, I don't think we need to spend the resources into looking at something that's not quite broke. Does anybody else, have any other thoughts or?
It makes sense to me too.
Yeah, I agree with you.
There's not, if it's not broke,
Don't fix it.
right?
Yeah, we have to do it. So kind of, you guys are comfortable though, looking at a higher level overview of those two sites. I'm not really getting too far deep into the weeds, kind of give you guys a level of magnitude on the project to kind of hone in on.
Yeah, I think it's good. I think the borough needs it.
Perfect.
I think it's a good idea.
Okay.
With just a little tweaking.
Yeah, absolutely.
Anybody else have any questions for HRG, Josh Sheets, or anybody?
Yeah,
All right.
perfect. You don't have got these ones.
Thank you,
Mayor?
we'll,
Thanks, Jim.
I'll take care of revising and dropping that third piece and
I'm sorry.
work well.
Jim, did you want to say something?
No, I could probably let it go if they're gonna revise it. The only thing that I would say is there might need to be a little more clarification as to how we're coming up with that figure when the last sentence before the section entitled work product indicates that it's not including any sort of detailed field surveying of existing buildings or facility, the interior layouts of any of the existing or perhaps newly proposed buildings or facilities. I'm not sure what the heck we're doing there. To me, a case study, you're looking at what you have and determining whether or not that's adequate and what something new would need to entail. I guess I'm not sure what the scope of the project is.
I guess explain to us at
Sure.
the end of this study, what would borough get? What would we?
The borough will have a plan, in this case, for a electrical department, on one site where the police department also is. It'll have a plan for the highway department on its existing site. And that plan will indicate how we propose to address the concerns or the efficiency, so to speak, of the existing departments by adding square footage or rearranging existing square footage. It's not intended at this point, quite honestly, in an architectural process to get down to doing doors and room sizes if we don't have a general idea of where it's going to cost-wise. That's our primary goal, is to give you the overall picture from a high level, as Josh says, before the necessity of getting down into both the weeds with all of the layout of the individual rooms. We'll work with the borough staff to determine the square footage needs. We'll prepare a plan that shows, as we call them, block buildings and blockouts on the site, whether it's additional parking, circulation, storage yards, those types of things. That'll be in a graphic form that you'll see each of those sites as a site plan. You'll also have an opinion of probable cost based on those proposed improvements to each site. And that's for you to use in determining your priorities and moving forward.
I'm not sure, I don't need to belabor the point, I'm not sure I understand what that means. I mean, we're not talking about, when you say, oh, we're gonna determine what square footage you need, I mean, no disrespect to the architects or engineers in the room, but I think our own people can tell you how short they are, how much equipment is sitting outside, how much more room would you need in order to house that equipment. If it's getting to the design of the building, that's where I see the need for architects and engineers, but I'm not sure I still to this point grasp what you're getting if it does not include a field survey of existing buildings, facilities, interior layouts, or plans for any new or proposed buildings or facilities. I don't get it.
Real quick here, I just want to, in my mind, if money wasn't an issue, I would take like the borough has 50 acres out of the reservoir. I'd go to a brand new facility, a facility that would house both utility departments together. Where you'd have a structure in the middle that would be a common space, that would have locker rooms, bathrooms, break room, and then to the left, 4 or 5 bays for highway, on the right, 4 or 5 big bays for electrical, whatever they need. Where you bring trucks in, bring storage in, have off to the side an area to store salt and tan bark and stone, like with the big concrete dividers. That takes a lot of real estate. You're not doing that down at the police station. Whether you relocate the police or not, you're not doing that down there. You're not doing that at our existing highway department where they're at. There's just not enough real estate to do something like that. But in my mind, if money wasn't an option and I had the ability to do it, I'd put them together because both departments could share common spaces, a locker room, a bathroom, a break room. And they could each have their own dedicated space as far as, maybe the highway department has 4 bays with, one of them has a lift for a car, like get equipment in the air, where the others just has, 15-foot garage doors, be able to bring bucket trucks in. I don't know, I'm not an expert in the situation. That's really what I feel would be my direction, but that's just me. So it's.
Well, just to be clear, we are relying on the borough to provide us with the information of what they need square footage-wise. We weren't going to do that analysis. This was, as Josh says, it's a high-level picture of an option to improve the facilities at the highway department, improve the facilities at the electric department. You have to go through that process first before you spend all the time and money designing a building and all the rooms and all the space, only to find out that you can't afford it. We're trying to get you to the point where you know what your budget would be before you have to expand substantial monies to get there. We could also look at a whole new facility, but I think this was considered the practical solution
I get it.
at the time.
I'm just, I guess, going on record saying,
Mhm.
you also, I get it.
Well, thank you. If you have any other questions?
No, I don't know.
All right.
Thank you very much.
We'll get together and get with staff and get that for you.
Moving forward now to agenda item number 3.
No, I'm sorry, Mr. President, before you move on, just one last question. So are we getting a revised retainer then?
Yes.
Okay. All right.
Agenda item number 3.
Tonight we have with us Zach Williard with PFN, our financial consultant, and we also have Ryan Metzer with Eckert Siemens, our bond counsel. And Zach, the floor is all yours.
Okay, great. Yeah, thanks everybody. It's been a few months since we've seen you. We're going to go through this handout, which should be in front of everybody. I'm going to walk through this. This is about the numbers and about the dollars and the budgetary impact to fund the second piece of the Spruce Street substation project. Ryan's here. There's no official action needed tonight. As long as everybody's comfortable, then we can move forward. But Ryan's here if you have any questions about any of the legal documents or the ordinance that was passed last year in order to fund the project. So let's open up the handout. I think we have generally good news about the budgeted numbers and the debt service numbers as to what this is going to cost the borough to finish the project. If you flip the page, it's page number 2 at the bottom, it's an interest rate chart. Just real quick to hit on this. Interest rates, I think we said this last year, while you hear about how high interest rates are, if you look at Bloomberg News or CNBC, mortgage rates, those are all real and true. But you borrow in the municipal space, okay? So it's a tax-exempt interest rate. Tax-exempt interest rates are still very healthy, all right? We had a bond issue that we priced today in our office and one yesterday. Both of those were sub 4% for 25-year money, okay? So the chart on this page, the bottom half, is meant to show you an index. This is the 10-year rate. This is not meant to show you where you would borrow, but it's just meant to show where rates are in general, okay? And, last October, they kind of hit a peak, and since then they've kind of come down and found this new normal. You can see this bottom right-hand chart, which is where they've been floating around. The plan is to go out and lock in interest rates for this transaction next week, assuming that everybody wants to move forward. And again, we're borrowing, kind of in the neighborhood of 4% right now as an all-in fixed interest rate. All right. Any questions about the market in general? Good. So page 3, I think, is really the punchline. So when you look at page 3, if you start on the left in column 4 in this black and gray, that's the budget year. Okay. Now this whole column 1, the series of 23, that's what we did last summer. All right, those are already locked in. Those payments are fixed. So in column 5, you can see the payments are about $365,000 a year, let's call it. That was for the first, what we're calling the first draw for the project, okay? So now you have bids back for the second phase of this, all right? Now we're not borrowing money for the entire project because you do have some additional reserves that you're going to use to kick in to pay for this. And so what we've determined is columns 2 and 6, that you're going to borrow about $4.4 million in order to fund the rest of the project. We're going to do that again next week. You have the money in the bank at the end of July. And column 6 shows you where about we think those payments would be. So it's about $330,000 a year. It's a 20-year amortization. So when you add up column 5, which is real, column 6 is estimated, you get column 7, where your payments are just shy of about $700,000 a year. That's about $100,000 less than what we, had kind of estimated last year, just based on where the market was. So from that standpoint, I think this is all real good news. Now again, column 6 is going to wiggle around between, now and next week when we lock this in, but all very good news. Okay. So any questions about the budgeted impact? No. The last page I want to hit on is page 4. And this one has a lot of numbers. I'm not going to go through this in excruciating detail, but just so you get the general idea. So the whole goal is to borrow as little amount of money as possible, right? So we kind of use different tools to do that. So when you look in columns 4 and 5, those were the amounts that you needed to finish kind of the first draw, which was what we were funding last year. And then column 5 is what the bids that you just got back plus a 5% contingency, okay? Then column 6 are the soft costs. Column 7 are the estimated issuance costs. So column 8 shows you how much you need every month now through June of 2025 in order to finish the project and pay it off. That's what we call the uses. So those columns are all what you're using the money for. The sources are columns 9 through 13. All right, so column 9 shows the next borrowing, about 4.3 million. Over in column 11, I wanted to point out the additional funds available. That's about 1.1 million of different reserves that you have that you're going to use in order to fund the project. That's money that you don't need to borrow. And then column 12 is interest earnings on the borrowed money. So when you borrow the money, you're not spending it all on day one. You're going to then take that money and invest it. Okay. Right now, the investment rate's above 5%. We're showing a conservative 3.5% here. And then what we do is we shrink the amount you need to borrow by what you're estimated to earn. So again, in order to borrow the least amount of money. But so this page is essentially showing you what you need the money for and how you're going to pay for it. Okay. And then the last thing that we have in here, pages 5 through 8, is your credit rating report. Now, if you'll remember last year, you were a AA stable credit rating, which is a really great rating. That's 2 notches below AAA. So they think the borough's in fantastic financial shape, so you should all feel real good about the job you've been doing. And Ken and Sally have to do an interview in order to get this credit rating. They did an excellent job on the interview again, so the rating came back. Even though you're borrowing more money, the rating came back again at a AA stable. So again, another piece to be proud of.
Excellent, excellent.
Any questions? If everybody's good, we will lock in the rates next week. You will, we'll send everything to Ken and Sally, and then they can share the final results with you when we have them.
Do we need to vote?
I have a motion for that, what he's talking about right now, okay?
Okay?
So I have a motion to authorize the financing team to price the series of 2024 bonds on or about June 27th, 2024 in the estimated principal amount of $4,331,255, and to authorize the officers of the borough to sign all necessary and related documents.
So,
Moved by Councilor Reed, second by Councilor Lister. Any questions or comments? All those in favor?
Aye. Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Great. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you, Ron. We have motion 3A that I'm going to ask for now. It kind of goes along with what Zach just explained, that we're going to pull for this financing some of our debt service funds that we have that were unused from when we originally started to budget this. We have some money in reserve. So this motion is just getting your approval to use that $1.16 million when the time comes. So the motion here would read, do I have a motion to authorize the use of electric debt service funds to construct improvements to the borough's electric system, including building a new substation, replacing the existing substation located on Spruce Street?
Second. Moved by Councilor Reed, second by Councilor Lister. Any questions or comments? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Agenda item number 4.
Okay, this is the actual project itself. We received only one bid on the project, but in your packet there is the recommendations from our engineering saying that we reviewed it and everything is in order, and our engineer saying it is the cost that was, or the bid that was received is in line with what we were expecting to see in terms of a cost for the project. And so at this time, I'll have I'll read a motion to you for a vote, and then we can have questions if you have any. Substation contract award. Do I have a motion to award the construction of the Spruce Street substation to George J. Hayden Incorporated, DBA Hayden Power Group, for a lump sum bid of $6,664,000, subject to receipt of execution of the agreement between the owner and the contractor, required insurance documents, and acceptable performance and payment bonds.
So moved.
Second. Moved by Councilor Reed, second by Councilor Lister. Any questions or comments? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Agenda item number 5.
All right, we have with us tonight Scott Henry of Brown Schultz Sheridan and Friends. He's going to present our final 2023 audit year.
Hi, everyone. Excuse me, you may have received the packet. We'll probably project it just so I can point out everything. The packet is a condensed form of the financial statements. We do highly recommend to read over the financial statements. There's a lot of really good information in there. But tonight will just be a more condensed, high-level overview of it. And again, my name is Scott Henry. I'm the senior manager on the engagement, and also here with us is Brian Marchuk, the principal on the engagement. If you have any questions, please feel free to reach out to us. And then if you have any questions tonight, please just let us know along the way. I'm going to start on page 4, if you don't mind going down to that. It's page 2 at the bottom, but it was PDF page 4. So this goes over the scope of our work. We were engaged to perform an audit of your 12/31/2023 financial statements, also to help prepare the financial statements, the BCD report, and then also maintain the depreciation schedule. It's a misnomer sometimes with audits that we tie everything down to the penny. What happens is we use a materiality threshold for the financial statements. And then we also do a risk-based auditing based on the riskier areas of the audit. We also review your internal controls. We're not providing an opinion on those internal controls, but we do review that, and we would let you know if we would have any comments. If you look at the bottom of that, this states our opinion. We were able to issue an unmodified opinion, which is the best opinion that we can give. It essentially says that your financial statements are materially correct and in accordance with generally accepted accounting principles. It is the best opinion that we can give, and it was the same opinion that we gave last year. Any questions on that? Okay. Going to the next page, this is your government-wide financial statements. The start of it with your statement of net position, also known as a balance sheet. This is on the full accrual basis of accounting. So here you can see there's capital assets. Also includes your long-term debt, your pension, and OPEB plans at the end of the year. So this may look a little different than you would see on a month-to-month basis. Just pointing out a couple of key items, you will see that there were decreases in non-current assets, deferred inflows, non-current liabilities, and deferred outflows. This is primarily related to your pension and OPEB plans. You get an actuarial valuation at the end of the year. Your pension plans actually saw really good gains on those investments for 2023. So there was changes in those associated categories. Also, you'll see there was an increase in non-current assets and non-current liabilities for your business type activities. This was the issuance of the last year's bonds of the 2023 general obligation bonds. You issued them in 2023, but you did not utilize them. So it's picked up as a non-current asset at the end of 12/31/2023, along with your outstanding debt, which I'll get into in a minute here, for your non-current liabilities at the end of the year. Another key thing is to look at your net position. It was about 89% of your total liabilities, deferred inflows of resources, and net position at the end of 2023, compared to 86% in 2022. So very comparable. You like to see that it actually increased a little bit because of net income. And then for your business type activities, that was 27% and 26%. This is all laid out for you just in case you can refer to it in the future, but just a couple of key statistics that we looked at. Flipping now to the next page. This is your statement of activities, also known as an income statement. This is also on the full accrual basis of accounting. So what that means are revenues are recognized as you earn them, and expenditures are recognized as you incur the services or you receive the products. Again, this is a little different than the cash basis or modified cash basis that you receive on a monthly basis. Also, your capital assets are not shown here. They're picked up as assets. And it also includes your changes in pension and OPEB plans. Your governmental activities showed an increase in revenue of about 6%, and expenses was an increase of about 30%. Now that's hard to quantify just because of all those changes in pension and OPEB. I'll get to that in a little bit. Your business type activities showed an increase of about 4% of revenue, and then an increase in expenditures of about 3%. So pretty consistent there with revenues and expenditures from year to year. Any questions on the government-wide financial statements? Okay. Flipping to the next page, this is the balance sheet for the governmental funds on the modified basis of accounting. So here you can see that it does not include capital assets, it does not include your pension or OPEB, it does not include your debt. This is more what you're used to seeing on a month-to-month basis, and also what you're budgeting based on. What we like to look at is your fund balance at the end of the year. You'll see there that there's about $20 million of fund balance at the end of 12/31/2023. That's split up into 5 categories. First, your non-spendable, about $50,000. That's just related to your prepaids. Then you have approximately combining them together about $1,100,000 restricted for highways, rehabilitation program, and then the community fund. Then you have committed funds of about $4.9 million committed by the board, by council for capital projects, stabilization, equipment and vehicles for public works, fire equipment, MS4 compliance, and parks and rec. And then you have assigned by management for flood relief, debt service, and police sinking fund for about $427,000. That leaves at the end about $14 million of unassigned fund balance, which is about 68% of total fund balance that can be utilized for future expenditures. So strong, healthy unassigned fund balance at the end of 12/31/2023. Flipping to the next page then, this is your statement of revenues, expenditures, and changes in fund balance, also known as an income statement. Again, modified cash basis. So revenues here are recognized as you receive them. Expenditures are recognized as you pay them. And then also capital assets are included here, or capital expenditures are included here, as well as debt payments. Key things here to look at in the general fund, you had an increase in revenue of approximately $550,000 from the prior year. This is primarily due to the millage increase, as well as better returns on those investments that you have with Lincoln and so forth and your other investments. Your general fund expenditures on the flip side actually showed a decrease of approximately $938,000. This is primarily due to the Halford Oak Hill parks that were being done in 2022. This just did not reoccur in 2023, so you saw a decrease in those expenditures. If you would actually go to the next page, page 7, just the bottom of it then. Again, I just laid these out in case you want to reference it in the future. The general fund expenditure metrics there, you can see there, we compare last year to this year, or 2022 to 2023, just to show how expenditures are being utilized. You can see public safety did increase about 9% from the prior year. This is primarily due to the 2 interceptors that you purchased with leases. And then it's also due to changes in wages and police staff. You also see a decrease in parks and rec. This is purely because of that Halford Park and Oak Hill parks that were done in 2022 compared to 2023. All other categories were pretty consistent from year to year. Any questions on the fund level financial statements? Okay. The rest of it, it's just if you just go back up just a little bit, it's the very bottom of that last one. Just a couple of key notes from the financial statements. Capital assets, you had purchases of about $1.9 million. Scroll down to the bottom. About $1.9 million, and this is offset by about $2.2 million of depreciation expense. The significant purchases during the year was the 2 Ford Interceptors, as well as significant work done on the Spruce Street substation during the year. Flipping to the next page now, your long-term debt. I know that you just had a bond presentation. This is as of 12/31/2023. You were able to pay off your 2014 general revenue note during 2023. You paid down the vehicle notes and equipment loans that were outstanding. This is offset somewhat by the new leases that you had for your vehicles. You had your water and wastewater system notes payable, about $445,000 as you continue to pay that down. And then you issued that 2023 general obligation bonds that I think you begin paying in 2024 and 2025 for the new electric substation that you guys are building. The rest, the pension and OPEB are also very significant notes. You'll see there's several pages related to that, just because of the actual evaluation, all the things that go involved in coming up with those numbers. The key ones I wanted to show at the bottom, your net pension liabilities for police and then non-uniforms both decreased. So that's a positive. You saw better returns on your investments during the year, so seeing that go in the general right direction. Your police OPEB and non-uniform OPEB actually did increase the liability. That's primarily due to actuarial evaluation, determining different discount rates and everything that they put into those numbers. Any questions on the financial statements? Okay, starting on page 9 through the rest of the financial statements, this is just very standard language and required communication that we have to have with you as counsel. It goes over our responsibilities as auditors, your responsibilities as management. Also in the plan, scope, and timing of the audit, as mentioned previously, we do risk-based auditing, what we think are the riskier areas. We consider utilities, accounts receivable and revenue, grants, capital assets, capital leases, pension, OPEB, and then accounts payable as the most significant risky areas of the audit. So we did additional procedures on those to make sure that all the balances that are being reported were correct and were considered reasonable. On the next page, again, going over very standard language, significant estimates in the financial statements, significant disclosures. If you go at the bottom, this is required language. I don't really like the term as misstatements. What actually happened is we have to report to you any adjustments that were made during the audit. Management does provide most of these. It's just going from the cash basis to the accrual basis. So we have to report that to you, but most of that was provided by management for us to record that on the full accrual basis of accounting. And then the next page, as mentioned, we do go over your internal controls to see if there's anything that we can denote, things that you potentially could do better. The one thing that we did note was the Borough Homestead loans. You've been doing really good at trying to figure those out, getting payments for them, but there's still a couple of loans at the end of 12/31/2023 that aren't being paid based on the payment terms. So we just encourage you to continue looking at those to see what is actually outstanding and what you should go after. Also, the W-9s, nothing wrong here, but we always just like to encourage you because we have seen fraud in the past of not getting the proper W-9s from vendors and paying the wrong vendors. So just encourage you, make sure you get W-9s for all of your vendors and make sure you're reporting the proper 1099s for the IRS forms. And then the last page of the report is just upcoming GASB pronouncements. We've discussed this with management before we have to issue that or before we have to implement them, but we just have to make you aware of upcoming ones that may affect the borough or the borough's financial statements. I know I went through that very quickly and it's very high level, but any questions or anything?
Anybody have any questions?
I also did want to mention we just really appreciate all of the help by the staff, especially Sally and Linda. They put a lot of work and a lot of time into this effort. They do a great job, and we just really appreciate all the dedication that they give us and making it as smooth and easy as possible.
Excellent, it's good news.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
And if you guys need anything, please don't hesitate to reach out to Brian or I. We're always happy to take a call. Thank you.
Okay, Mr. President, Council, we have a motion to accept the 2023 audit report for the borough as presented by the auditor.
Second. Moved by Councilor Kuskevich, second by Councilor Reed. Any questions or comments on the audit? All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Agenda item number 7.
I have a motion to accept Officer Coleman Witherite's letter of resignation from the Middletown Borough Police Department effective immediately.
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Councilor Kuskevich, second by Councilor Reed. Any questions or comments on the resignation?
We accept it with regret.
We do. We wish him well. All those in favors? Aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Agenda item number 8.
Mr. President, we reviewed the Windstream full agreement that was before you last meeting, and we were able to determine that the proper language is in there for removal of unused equipment. So at this time, do we have a motion to adopt Resolution 2024-13, authorizing the execution of the full attachment agreement between Windstream D&E Systems LLC and the Borough of Middletown?
So moved. Second.
Moved by Councilor Miller, second by Councilor Lister. Any questions or comments on the agreement? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Agenda item number 9.
We have a motion to adopt Resolution 2024-14, approving the temporary extension of the Royalton Sewage Treatment Agreement until September 30th, 2020.
Moved by Councilor Reed, second by Councilor Lister. Any questions or comments on the extension? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Agenda item number 10, Mr. Fontaine.
Okay, thank you. We've covered item number one with CFM's presentation. We've also covered item number 2 and 3, which is the space study, and 4, which is the pole attachment agreement we just did, and 5, which is the extension of the sewage treatment agreement, and in order to allow the parties to negotiate a new agreement. Item number 6 on my report is we received a revised agreement for our consideration from the Middletown Area Recreation Association, to which the borough is a member. It's a new draft agreement, intermunicipal agreement between all the parties, which is revised to account for an increase in the cost of membership. And that's only a slight cost of $186.95. And these are based on population served. Middletown's population has increased a little bit since this was originally done. There are some other minor changes, but nothing that would relate to any service change in services rendered. The existing agreement is included in your packet for comparison with the new revised agreement. And the agreement has been provided to the solicitor for his review. And we'd like to entertain any questions and put this on the agenda for our next business meeting for a vote. All right. Item number 7 is just an informational piece. Some of you may know that Penn State Harrisburg has sent notification out to the public that they're closing their indoor pool due to the increased cost of operation and the large cost of repairs that are needed for the pool. Item number 8, as you know, the tax collector has position has been posted on social media for recruitment. And the borough has 30 days from December 31st, 2024 to make an appointment to fill the last remaining year on Pam Miller's term as the tax collector. However, we can appoint someone prior to that. If you find somebody or somebody applies, we just can't make it effective until the beginning of 2025, January 2025. And then whoever decides to accept an appointment would be back on the ballot in the spring, May 2025, for the next 4-year term for that position. And that's all I have. What's that? Item number 9 is just some information. If you have any questions,
Agenda item number 11, codes.
Yeah, Jason's on vacation this week. He doesn't have anything really of note on his report, just some informational items on the number of outstanding violations and permits.
Excellent. Agenda item number 12, Director Rosebach.
I don't really have a lot other than I wanted to, if you don't mind, just explain a little bit more again to the public about the substation and the reason why, because was an important project that's been ongoing for years, and I don't think a lot of residents know the exact reason about the substation, and it's at its lifespan of 50 years. And in 2011, we were hit with a flood, tropical storm Lee, that flooded our main substation on Race and Spruce. This put all our load on our northern substation that was never meant to handle the load in this town. It's only a 10 meg substation, and the load at the time, during summertime, peak load was anywhere from 16 to 18 megawatts. So the borough was in a really sticky situation when this happened, and we came out okay. But with everything that happened, we knew we had to invest money into the substation, and it was time. So I appreciate council moving forward. It's been long overdue, and this should serve the community for many years to come. And I really appreciate it. As a resident, I appreciate it. I don't want that working now. So, thank you.
Rick, how much megawatts will this one push through?
This here, the transformers will be the same as Mill Street. So one transformer Mill Street will handle 12, 14, or 20 megawatts, depending on the fans running at the time. So the more you put cooling on it, the more load it can handle. So one transformer at this substation can handle the town. We'll have 2 transformers there. So you have redundancy built in. Just say a squirrel, for some reason, they like to get into something, blew up a bushing on a transformer and you're waiting weeks for a bushing. You still have another transformer that will handle the whole town, along with a separate substation down at Mill Street. Same goes if there was another flood. So, everything with this substation, the redundancy's built in. Our circuits are all built to tie into each other. And one other thing that pushed this is our new development out of Woodland Hills. It was estimated a meg of new load going in out there, which we didn't have a separate feeder. Due to the design of the older substation, there was no spare feeders that we could feed mills out there to Woodland Hills with. So this substation will give us an additional circuit for Woodland Hills, plus there would be one spare for something else down the road. Whether it would be, if we look at generation, possibly you can use that spare for the backfeed into the system.
So not putting the cart before the horse, but once this substation is complete, do we have plans to look at?
That's going to be evaluated, correct? And it's already being evaluated on what can be done now as far as bypassing, because unfortunately, it's not just Middletown's equipment that's in there. It is also First Energy or Med-Ed's equipment that's in that flood zone. So we could move our substation, but it would have to be a joint process with them, and they would have to move their equipment also. They have ties that go out to Hershey and so forth there. So there would be some coordination for them. But meanwhile, we're going to look at a way that we could possibly, if this ever happened again, that they can just bypass remotely and bypass right to Spruce Street, and we tie our circuits in and we dump our substation all my SCADA systems. We're good. So like I said, it's been overdue. But you don't see this redundancy built into a lot of places, and we're fortunate to be a public power, and we look at Middletown. We don't look at anywhere else. We look at Middletown and what we can do better. So.
Excellent.
Other than that, there was 2 outages. I want to remind people that balloons do cause outages, so please hold on to your balloons. So we took off half the downtown and some big businesses because of the balloon.
Really?
And yeah, a Mylar balloon, yeah. So please just hold on to your balloons, people. Don't let them go. That's all.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Agenda item number 13, Director Staff.
Hello. I only have one thing I wanted to add, comment to about the tax collector that Ken didn't mention, is I've also been talking to Dauphin County, the treasurer there, and there is an option. I'm waiting for confirmation from them and kind of get through some details about them actually doing the tax collection for the borough. They're apparently doing it for a number of other municipalities in our area that are also losing their tax collectors. So I'll keep you informed on that. But other than that, do you have any questions on my report?
Do we ever find out what the tax collector's salary is?
At Dauphin County?
No, the Pam's. What was she being paid?
13.
13,000.
Mm-hmm.
That's right. In case somebody asks.
Yeah. Well, it would be put into any ad that we place.
Anybody have any questions?
Okay.
Thank you. Agenda item number 14, fire department. Weber, good evening.
Good evening. I don't have the numbers for this past month yet. Excuse me for that. But the fire department did have 3 fundraisers that we did in the past month. One was a boot drive, one was the Hardee's night up at Hardee's fundraiser, and also our Mr. Sticky's sticky bun sale. We made approximately just under $500 off of those 3 fundraisers that we did. We did have one public event, that was the craft fair, that we attended as well. Just want to keep it on our radar if we could make a decision on the old engine that's sitting down there. If we can get that posted for sale, I just did another year's worth of insurance on it. So I'd like to find out what we're going to do with it and move forward on it. Whether it's with the brokers that Mr. Kleinpeter had talked to, or we try to do a sealed bid or something again. I would like to get it moving just so we don't have to keep paying for the maintenance on it. That's pretty much all I have. Does anybody have anything for me?
Next time you have a fundraiser, would you please let us know?
Yeah.
I didn't know about this.
Jenny ordered two boxes of them. You can steal some of hers.
2 boxes of what?
Mr. Sticky's.
Didn't you?
You just take a box of hers. She got 2 of them.
All
right.
For your house.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you. Agenda item number 15. Rick Miller.
Good evening, everybody. A couple points of interest on there. Sorry, the packet is full again. Lots of things on there. As was discussed a little bit at the last workshop, and we put the quote in here for Shaw's to do some tree work down at the Fry Manor Park area down there. Does council desire to move forward with removing the 2 trees that we had discussed previously at a cost of about $3,670. We can do the brush and the scrub clearing. I just need to know if we want to take those trees or not.
Well, should we put it on the agenda for, are you seeking a motion right now? Or are you
I don't know.
asking to put it on the agenda?
I don't know if it has to be that formal. I'm just looking at you guys are in agreement with cutting down a couple trees.
I'm okay with it. I mean, if
Can we
you-
put it on the agenda? Because I'd like to go out there and look at that again.
Okay.
Is everybody okay with putting it on the agenda?
Yes.
Would you like
Yes.
that brought back up at the business
I'm
meeting
okay with that.
or the workshop?
Next meeting.
Okay.
Yeah, next meeting. Yes, vote on.
We did receive, Angie had asked about accessible play equipment at the Fry Manor area there. I did get a couple of other things and updated costs as well as some renderings on what the play area would look like were included in your packet. Grant information was released via the county. Sally and I will work on completing that if council desires to move forward with the playground equipment and everything that was shown on there. Costs are included. If we would not get the full grant amount for whatever reason, we can pare the project back a little bit if we need to, if we end up with not full funding there. I did some cost, and our estimated material cost for Public Works to construct the paved walkway would be about $6,000. We can mention that in the grant as kind of a borough match contribution to the project that we're investing some of our own funds in that.
It's a good thing you bring this up, and I actually took a picture if anybody would like to see it. At the end of the road there where the grass starts, where we have the chain link fence, somebody stuck their trailer. Did you see it?
It got ticketed today.
Okay, well then that's great, but I bring that up is because the site is already extremely inaccessible, and especially for handicapped individuals. In the little bit of space you had to be able to get a stroller, believe me, 'cause I put strollers through there. Somebody just stuck their trailer right up I don't understand. And that's another reason, you know, people look at that and they just think it's a place to park something. And that's why I feel very strongly that needs to be opened up, cleaned up, and made inviting, and made, you know, a way to access the park. That way people aren't just like, oh, this is a street, let's just park a trailer in front of it.
They did park about 10 feet from a no parking sign.
I get that, but obviously, you know, you can't think stupid, so let's clean it up and blows my mind.
Okay. Pickleball and basketball backboards. I'm going to request some help from the electric department with their truck to lower the backboards down for us, and we can get those replaced, and we can put the new ones up at Colston. And Highway is going to be working on installing the nets for pickleball here in the next few weeks. I'll skip over number 3 there quick. That's a longer one to come back to. As requested, we went down and counted the parking spaces on the, I guess for lack of a term, Market Street parking area. Consists of 64 spaces around the center island and approximately 27 on-street spaces that would fit in front of the houses, totaling roughly 91 spaces. We are going to post that so that folks move their various vehicles. We will repaint the center lines and also paint the curbs.
I'm sorry, can you repeat that again, please?
You're posted.
Yeah, we'll post the parking area down there for people to move their stuff so we can paint the lines.
Temporary parking so we can make it.
Yes.
Oh.
Temporary.
How many parking spaces were down there?
And there were 64 around the center island, and depending on, it looks like there could be 27 on street plus or minus.
That's a good bit.
So it's a total of 91 spaces.
Are we still gonna follow through with the non-motorized?
I would like to, I believe the solicitors are looking into that.
Yeah.
Good time.
And then, are we gonna do permit parking down there too?
I think that's something that we were also looking into.
All right.
The number 3 was stray cats. We got some additional information. Ken actually provided some information, I believe, in the last day or so here. So you may not have seen some of everything that we have. What I'd like to do is I'd like to approval for staff to move forward, kind of digest the various pieces of information we have, and then come back with a proposed policy for council review and approval so that we can keep this moving and attempt to utilize the funds that were set aside in 2024. Again, it does go back to, we're gonna need to try and find some volunteers to take care of it. And the guidance is, some of the stuff is really clear. It's really awesome. It goes step by step through what needs to be done. You can't just throw a cat in a trap, get it taken care of, and then release it 5 minutes later. So people would have clear instruction on what they need to do.
We're looking to develop a policy, what the borough is going to, so staff knows what to consider when we request a voucher. And one of the first things is there are what we call feral and free roaming cats versus pet cats. And the object of TNR programs is to address feral and free roaming cats.
Right.
And there are organizations who provide those services at a reduced rate because they are feral and free roaming, as opposed to pet cats, where there are places for that. Even the Humane Society will do pet cats, but they do those at a higher fee. For example, Nobody's Cats, I think, listed on their website, $40 per cat for feral and free roaming to get it spayed or neutered. Compared to a pet cat at the Humane Society, we have $95 for a male and $100 for a female.
It's a lot more than that.
Yeah, some places are even more. Some places are 200.
It's 120 at the Humane Society.
Oh, it went up then. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Last time I looked, it was 9%. But anyway, those are the things that we have to decide as a council how we spend the money. And my suggestion would be to spend it on free roaming and feral cats.
Absolutely.
Then the next step is develop some kind of resource page and some guidelines for the folks who come in for adoption. We just don't, if we want to be responsible for paying for these free roaming cats to get spayed or neutered, that people doing that work should be educated on what they should do. We can't enforce it, but they should be educated. For example, when you put a trap out, catch it. You don't want to put it out and go away for vacation and come back a week later and find a cat dead in there for the past 3 days. So there are guidelines that we should give out. There's, what these societies recommend. And to be prepared before you trap, how to put the trap out, what other tools you may need to recover the trap, to calm the cat down as soon as it's in there, or they'll beat themselves up inside the cage. Plus, you don't want them out in the heat for a long period of time because they'll expire. And those cages get hot. So there's a lot of things that we want to do to be responsible for keeping money to go trap and engage in this program. So we'll make sure we have all that together before we start giving them out. We'd like to bring that back to you, at the next meeting maybe. We'll see what you think.
Yeah, I'm thinking July's workshop.
July's workshop.
We have 2 sets of guidelines. We got some off the lower taxes site because they do a plan with things. I know someone who was deeply involved in the program for many years that had a lot of the guidelines that they do these cats and all of these. And we want to compare those up because the things that Matt I just gave him yesterday are a lot more detailed than what we had from LP. So we want to go through that and make sure that.
We do have some residents in the audience tonight that's interested in being a part of this program.
Excellent.
This is something that's been talked about for us, so it's really great to hear.
Yeah, we definitely want to do what we can for the problem. We just want to do it safely and humanely for the cats as well.
Excellent, thank you, Matt.
The only thing that I would request is approval of the revised Fried Park equipment and the cost to go on the agenda for the business meeting.
Did anybody have, I'm glad you brought that up. I think this looks really good. Anybody have any comments, questions, concerns? I think it'll fit the space down there. Nice.
Yeah, it includes some amenities that aren't already down there that we know get highly used in other parts of the town, the whirl and the swings and everything else. So I think it would be a really good addition for that portion of town.
Yeah, I'd like to see some, ADA equipment going in. Then we just have to find a place to park
Yes.
so they can get to it.
That's the only thing I would be requesting for July's workshop, and we will also bring back the cat information.
Excellent, thank you.
Thank you. You're welcome.
Agenda item number 16, Mara. Is anybody here to share a Mara report?
There's just information on the current programs and the percentage of borough residents participating in them.
Excellent. Agenda item number 17, please. Director Wright.
Good evening. I'm unable to say we are currently at full staffing tonight, like I have for the last several months. Officer Witherite resigned. We wish him well. There were no issues or problems with his resignation. He took a job closer to where his family lives in the upper part of the state. So,
Understand.
yeah, completely understand. 3 officers in the academy, they took their certification exam today, and I received an email 20 minutes before the meeting tonight that they all passed and that they are temporarily certified as police officers, so they're ready to go. They graduate Thursday. I'll be at the graduation ceremony. They all took a personal day on Friday, and they'll be here Monday ready to go. So, cool. They didn't have the heart to deny their personal day, so I keep the countywide traffic enforcement initiative on there every month just to let you know the next event is July 4th, sobriety will be patrol, we'll have an officer participating in that on the night of July 4th. The body worn cameras, this will be the last time that's on there. They're deployed, they're active, they're working well with the cars. They integrate with the in-car camera systems, everything's working well.
That's what you have on you.
Yes.
Any issues, no issues, any feedback from the officers, feedback from the residents?
No,
Everything's smooth sailing.
everything's doing well.
Is that like a magnet that keeps on there?
It's pulls off like that. And this is a magnetic mount for a more formal look. And then there's
Gotcha.
if I have my outer vest on, there's like a molly mount that it sits. So if I'm in the car and if I throw this in a dock, I sign it in the vehicle. If I hit the lights in the car, both of them go on together. And then when you review video within the system, they're all overlaid with each other. The body camera, the front camera, the rear camera in the car. Or you can push the button and activate it by yourself.
That's nice. We talked about this for years, so it's finally glad to see it's there.
The license plate reader system arrived through the PCCD grant. We had an installation crew out here doing some electric work and some setup for it. They'll be back either later this week or next week to finish that. And again, the Peacemakers book and build is next week. So we talked about that before. I'm going to their annual picnic to receive the books. I'm going to reach out to the local news, see if anybody wants to show up and report on their huge efforts and what they're doing for the department. And then the community events we attended, the Memorial Day Parade, which I had a couple people jokingly suggest to me it might be their last parade because some of the people are getting a little too old to walk it. But I'm hoping that's not the case. It's actually a pretty good event. Then the craft fair, again, we were at, the high school graduation parade was canceled, so we didn't participate in that. That's all I got. Any questions?
Thank you very much.
Yep.
Agenda item number 18, joint venture, Veolia. Seeing no comments from there. Agenda item number 19, council. Mayor, does the council have any questions, comments, concerns, issues?
I keep getting questioned about the area between Wood Street, Wilson Street, from Wood Street down to Catherine, and the parking situation, and they would like to go to permit parking, if at all possible. Because, what is it, Woodland Lane? Woodland. Yeah, they're being forced to pay for parking, and instead of parking in their parking lot, they're coming into the residence, keeping them from parking in their parking spaces. So if we can go to permit parking in that area, that would be great for them. And I got a complaint from my neighbors about Grant Street, from Mud Pike to Grant. They want it one way because there's the curve, and you're always meeting somebody when you're coming from Grant Street in and you're going to make the left going to Mud Pike. Somebody's always coming up, and it's like one day there's going to be a head-on, or somebody's going to come flying down Grant Street like they've been doing, and they're not going to know that left turn's there, and they're going to go straight through the fence, because I've seen it nearly happen before.
That's good feedback for data. I mean, that would take, I think we need to look at doing a study.
All right.
To do that, to
But it's
change
just one block.
Okay. I don't know the correct procedure for that.
Yeah, traffic study, I think that's one of the things, if a stop sign, they have to have somebody do an analysis, and then an ordinance to make it enforceable.
But the permit parking thing, I think the borough globally has a lot of potential areas where we can implement a structure like that. We are taking some steps. We're looking at some ways, so not putting the cart before the horse, but I think we're getting to that point.
Can we also look at putting parking or lines on Catherine Street from this area, from Emont Street up to Water Street.
I'm sorry, what do you mean by that?
Just like make parking spaces on the street and just put lines.
I don't really answer that. I think it's something we want to look at. Because once you implement that one place, so if you start implementing that town-wide, I think it'd be something to really dive into and look at first.
One thing that happens, you start lining spaces, you put standard length in that they depend on regs say.
Right.
And really, you end up with a
Less spaces.
motorcycle or a small car.
Right.
In a big space. So you actually start losing parking on the street when you start lining.
Okay.
In some cases, depending on what type of vehicles are there.
It's kind of like over-regulating.
Small versus big vehicles, yeah.
Think you're doing something good and you end up going backwards.
All right. That's it for me.
Any other council members?
We just came because Chief Whitebread said something. Where are we at with that fire? Where do we do that?
Yeah. The question's been asked, what we want to do, but council has never really gotten together and said, here's what we do. I think we should, I gave a report, a couple of workshops ago. There's no direction. Recirculate that information to you on what email or something.
Sure, why don't you do that? Let's get it circulated fast.
What was that place down in Lancaster?
They went broke.
Yeah, the broker.
For some reason, we escaped.
Yes. Can we go to that? Is that a possibility?
Yeah, I think I had in my packet a form that they have to fill out if you want to do that.
Seemed like that was the.
Because it's 7% fee to charge or something like that.
Right. Seemed like that was maybe the recommended option. Like, it just, because it didn't.
So Chief White had recommended selling it versus leasing.
Right. It didn't seem like there was, or it was reported there wasn't much interest in leasing.
Well,
It sounds like a great idea.
Leasing requires work. It takes work, it takes effort.
I still say let's go with the broker if we can.
Does council want to look at those things before you direct me tonight? Or?
Yeah, why don't you recirculate that?
Yeah, I don't want to make a decision tonight here. Send an email.
Well, I think we should make it fairly soon. If they're paying insurance on something they're not even driving.
There, we should do it at the next business meeting.
Any other council information? At this time, do I have general public comment? Please step forward, state your name and address for the record.
Jennifer McClure, 213 East Greenlaw Street. And mine is addressing the cat issue. And I would love to get the TNR program started in Middletown. I utilize the Steelton Community Cats program. They allowed me to take my 3 cats that I saved and rescued from someone else's yard, because I'm a cat sucker. I see them and I feel bad, and I take them in. And I was up to 8 cats at that point, and I was like, I can't take any more in. And I got these for the boys, and I called her, and she was like, you're the last. You're the last that I'm taking in as pets. But I got them neutered, and I said, how can we get this started in Middletown? And she said, I can't participate with Middletown. With enough municipalities. I said, okay, well, I know what I need to do. I need to go to Borough. I need to find out what the heck I can do. And it was ironic. This week on Facebook, somebody posted a post of a picture of them doing it, and They said Middletown needs something like this, and I immediately said, how ironic. Let's go to Borough Council, and I met these two ladies. And I said, I've never met these ladies. I said, who wants to go? What do we need to do? I know it costs money. I know this isn't cheap. This isn't, I'm just asking, how can we help? How can I help? What can I do? I mean, I know I can't be on council.
I think we'll be able to help. We have some money budgeted this year for the voucher program. The problem we had was we couldn't get in, as the steel people told you. One thing that the steel people do is after the surgery, they care for the cats overnight. And I think female might be 2 days before they're released.
And I
So
would
they
be
hold
willing to
them.
sit.
That's what we don't have here.
Yeah.
So we start our voucher program, there'll be instructions to the person trapping. You're gonna have to do that after surgery care at your
Yeah.
home, garage, wherever, before you release them. Because as you know, right after surgery, you can't release them.
No,
You have to watch
it's
for
their
3 months.
responsibility,
Make sure
right?
they're not sick or they're not bleeding, the stitch hasn't come open.
I mean, I know where I live on Emall, we don't have an abundance. I know that we don't. We have a few. I was attacked by one. I work for the med center, and I was told immediately, get in there, get your rabies shots. So I went through that spiel of 3 different visits to the hospital, but I did it. But I was trying to help. It wasn't the cat's fault. It just, I happened to touch it in a spot that it didn't like. It didn't have rabies. It's still roaming around, and you better bet I'm still feeding it. It's not its fault. It's not its fault that it was dropped off. I was just told by the neighbor across the street 2 more had been dropped off. I wish there were fines. If they could video these people that are dropping cats off.
Understand, it's a problem even where I live. I live outside Middletown.
I mean, it's horrible. I mean, when I saw this post for this lady that had the 3 boys that I have now, that I found these in my backyard, I can't keep them, and I'm like, oh, okay. It's been a year. But now I got them all their shots, got them neutered, they have their ears clipped, and they stay in my house. I don't let them go outside.
But we appreciate your hard work, and council and staff is working on this program. We've been talking about it for a while. We've appropriated funds for it, so we're ramping it up, and more information will be put out.
Keep my name there. I'll be willing to help.
Like you said, it's an education thing
Do it.
too. Maybe we can get something together on the website.
Okay.
Yeah, cats are one of those pets
you
that
put your
people
name
get
Yep,
free
put it
all the
on
time.
there. There was another
They don't
paper.
get a spay or neuter, they release it.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Any other general public comment?
Jared Knobb, 256 North Union Street. 2 things. I don't know a lot about cats, but I do know there are some local Middletown people that are involved in a outfit out of Lancaster, I believe, called Helping Hands for Animals. They actually have retired vets and people like that donate their time certain days of the week, and they will do like the whole trap, neuter, it's like TNR, trap, neuter, return process for you. It's free of charge. So until the borough gets something up and rolling, their number, so it's on record for calling and scheduling for their free neutering service is 717-687-7297. Again, similar to what the borough is starting to stock, 717-687-7297. There are some people locally in the community already kind of involved in this and doing it to some extent. Again, it is free, but there is like limited spots, and I believe they're out of Lancaster, so you have to drive in there. It's like a neutering appointment, and then you again, same thing with the recovery, but it is free to, I don't think the borough can sign up, but free to people anywhere to take it in there. Again, it's like retired nurture vets, and then they also have a staff member too. It's like they pay.
Can you say what was the name of the group?
It is called Helping Hands for Animals.
Did you say the number again?
It is 717 687-7297. They're one lady that's in charge actually lives in Lower Walton and Water Street, Andrea Stevens. So, let me just plug it.
No, thank you for that information. It's very helpful.
The other thing is, two things. I did submit my, I guess it was kind of formal, kind of informal, my interest in joining zoning hearing board now that I am a member of the community. So I wanted to put that out there also. My background is engineering and development and stuff like that, so I'd love to help out with the larger plan in this community and kind of the sleeping giant a lot of people refer to it in the development world and what this kind of could be. The third piece, I try to come every other meeting, especially now being a borough resident and a landlord of a number of properties in town. We always hear this reoccurring thing of like a parking issue, and then I would say 1 out of every 2 times it ends up being somebody charging for their parking on site that causes people not to use the parking that code requires. So I don't know if you guys remember the 2018, 2020 Borough Council went through this whole big push of we need people developing apartments to put these spots in. It was the whole take it from 1.33 spots required per apartment or conversion apartment within borough zoning and change it to 2 spots. We tackled part of the issue of having the need and that we wanted these on spots, but there are multiple landlords and people in town, including myself, that are guilty as charged because you have the ability to charge for those spots. Nowhere in code does it ever actually designate that somebody, through the development process, you're required to have these to meet code without a zoning appeal, but nowhere does it give the borough, from my understanding, the ability to enforce those spots being used for what they're needed for. So I could give you an example. I could go and put in a 10-unit apartment building. I could need 20 spots, and I could go park my contracting vehicles in those 20 spots. How borough code is written now. You see, we talked about the Woodland Avenue property about how they're charging for parking. I'm not saying go and say that if you need 2 spots, you need to give all those 2 spots up. But before we go into a permitting process and putting more work on our office ladies that are both retiring here, upcoming, and there'll be that transition, I think we should put those back on owners. Myself, our properties where we have extra spots is always you're given 1, and then if we don't have enough to give everybody 2, that's when we implement a pay for spot type situation, so it isn't a free for all. Again, always turning back on in a community where we're tight for parking, and we spent. I mean, I remember the meetings, and I was barely involved at that point. This conversation about this need for more parking. We had this need for more parking, but we don't have any way to actually make people use the parking that's needed there.
So I have a question for you. Are you currently charging for spaces and your tenants are not taking them?
I am not, because I only have 4 to offer, and it's not my first space. So our policy is that 1 spot is included in your rent. Like 29 North Union Street is one of our family's buildings right up here too from the brownstone. We have 12 spots and 8 apartments. So when you rent from us, we give you a spot. It's assigned with a number. So it was a way that we were able to deter people from the brownstone and Tabard Flag from parking there when Tabard Flag was open, because the numbers were better than no parking spot because they thought somebody would come and yell at them specifically for parking their spot. But our first 8 spots are given, the other 4 are charged for $25 a month for those people. So, and then if somebody doesn't buy it, I store one of my box trailers there. And because as a business owner, we've had the trailer conversation before, but borough code is written with the intent of these parking spots needed for the people that are living and occupying our community.
But wouldn't it make more sense if you had 2 spots for a unit? So Unit A had 2 spots, Unit B had 2 spots. Wouldn't it make more? Let's just say your rent was $800 and you wanted to get $50 or $25 and $25. Wouldn't it make more sense just to make your rent $850 a month and give them those 2 spots instead of going through all that rigmarole?
Definitely, that's the
because you're not losing any money.
Well, but I'm not saying that. I get that that's a business case, but borough council's job isn't to go tell landlords how to run their businesses. If you are forced to give up, so Woodland Court or whatever it is, if they have 40 apartments and 80 space, and then the borough decides that you need to use these spaces that are required in order to develop that property. So the borough's already went and said, hey, we believe that when you're adding apartments to Middletown, you need to add parking that's accessible to them. So if you're going and telling people they need to do that, they can do that to make their numbers whatever they need to and say, hey, we're giving you 2 parking spots as required.
I guess in my mind, it doesn't make, it's not common sense. If I own a property in Mechanicsburg and it has 4 spaces, I'm not going to drive my trailer. I'm not going to store my trailer all in Mechanicsburg because there's an empty space there. I'm just going to charge that tenant $1,000 and give them the 4 spaces.
but that's not what's happening in town in certain places.
I mean, that's just like a common sense thing.
But even though, so again, we can't fix stupid. I was always taught that from a young kid. You can't fix stupid, but the borough does. The borough in a lot of municipalities actually.
But that's what you're doing. You have adequate spaces, and you're charging your tenants for it, and they're only taking one instead of the other space, and then they're parking on the street, and then you're parking your equipment in that space.
Well, and I just happen to live in the borough and need places to park stuff. Again, I'm technically not doing anything legally wrong by doing so.
Yeah.
But there are other people that charge for those first spots, even because again, the borough has gone and we had said, hey, we believe that bringing new residents to town in a residential unit fills the need for 2 spots for us. If the borough is going to have, whether it be, I mean, if you actually look at the code when they enforced all that, there's actually apartment buildings where those requirements that they have are garages that are rented out. So 37 North Union Street, when the Boozer family owned 37 North Union Street, when Mrs. Boozer passed away, the 2 properties got split. Our family took 29 North Union Street. When the parking requirements came up, they actually used 29 North Union Street to meet their requirements because of the land cap when it was 1.33. And actually, I think it was at 1 at one point. So when the Boozers decided that we were going to take that property and the church, St. Peter's, wanted to purchase it, St. Peter's then had to prove that they had that parking available for those tenants somewhere. And that was using garages that are actually rented out. And then thankfully, St. Peter's has their own parking lots. They would subsidize some of that. But again, we talk about permitting and adding more things for the borough to jumble when there's a simple things that's changing a little bit of code if legally a bit able to, and however you have to do it on the Eckert Seaman side of things and figuring out what the borough can and can't do. But we already say that's important, and borough had taken time and money to write a new ordinance and update it for adding apartments, but we've never really put any effort into making sure that we said, yeah, if you want to turn this apartment building into 5 units from 4, you need these spots, but we never really told anybody they have to give them to anybody.
Yeah, so basically what he's saying is we changed the ordinance to make it 2 per unit. And when they showed on the plans that they're doing that, they get their building permit to construct or do that, but there's no enforcement mechanism.
Yeah, you can enforce it. The code's not, from my understanding, the code's not written in any way you can enforce that.
Yeah, I don't actually agree with an enforcement mechanism. Me personally.
Well, maybe that's the borough and most municipalities take a stance that this parking is important in the development process, and then saying that they don't need it would be like saying, hey, Sheets, we're going to make you put all this parking in because we
But
think
you're
it's
saying
required.
you're literally arguing that you're part of the problem. So if you're,
I am saying I'm part of the problem,
you're part of
because
the
guess
problem,
what?
so why don't you be part of the solution?
It's legal.
So I understand that. I understand it's legal, but if you want to rent, if you're going to be a landlord and you want to be in that space and you want to own property and you're going to rent it out, you should be compensated. I don't disagree with that. So if you need to feel like you need to charge for that space, do that, bake it into your rent, and let your tenants park there.
But again, the borough can't tell people to do that. And you got to remember, this comes back to the trailer conversation when I got up here and had a similar thing. There is a cost. There is a cost of doing business, and in the development world, when a developer decides if they're going to build an apartment complex or not, their cost of doing business and their cost to substantiate that building, get power there, get water there. The whole thing HRT does is part of your feasibility for developing a property or being a landlord includes those costs to maintain those things required from the municipality.
Do you think Penn State would decide to bring 500 Penn State vehicles and park them in their parking lot up there where all their dorms are and just tell all the students, I had to put these spots here, but good luck, go fend for yourself. Do you think they would do that? No, because they're like a reputable, real landlord in the space. Okay, so anybody that's doing that, I mean, that's just like shoddy landlords to me that would do something like that. It'd be like me renting out my house, single family home, and telling them there's a driveway there, but you can't use it. Oh, if you want to use it, well, I'm not, I'll have to make you use it. It's horrible business practice.
Well, I think there's horrible business practice. Don't get me wrong. We give one spot because most of our units are 1-bedroom apartments. We fill out the other 4 again. We want to have them assigned people around them, and that's kind of the business case again because it's legal in the borough. But there are people that are elected officials here that have other agreements also that tie up required parking and per borough ordinances again. But the borough has made, and some of the people sitting on this council at one point had made a decision that with development and splitting up of generational homes that are too large for people to occupy, a way to slow people down is make sure there's enough parking. But nobody ever tells people they have to use that parking. and there's nothing. You said we need it. I developed the property. I'm going to be pulling another one here to zoning hearing board. I want to put 7 apartments and I need 14 spots.
Yeah.
Again, but the borough has no power to say what I do with those spots after my permit's closed. So it's like writing a rule on the wall and saying, hey, here it is. We want you to do it, but we really can't tell you not to. So
let me ask you this. I mean, if the borough made a law that said that tenants have to use those spaces, would you then charge the tenant? Would you say, well, you want that space at $200 a month and you have to rent it from me if you want to rent this building because that's just the borough code?
I think that and I'm not a lawyer by any means. And again, Eckert Siemens is who is paid here to consult on this and the same.
I'm not asking your legal, I'm just asking, is that how you would do that?
But you have to, I don't know how you would word that and make it. But again, I'm not saying you can't make money for it, but they would have to put it in there a specific way in order to do that. So like if your business is renting an apartment, so that's like primary and secondary uses of mixed use occupancy buildings. You have a primary occupancy of a building. My apartment's primary use is being in the business of providing homes for people. I'm not in the business of selling parking spots in town, or I shouldn't be, because my primary and custom use of that property is to provide people residences. As part of me wanting to do business.
Are you suggesting that someone has a, apartment structure and they're renting the spaces to someone else and not the occupants?
Well, that does happen. That does happen in town, and I can give you a couple of things. So that is half of this. Then there's the other half again with Woodland Court or whatever, where they're charging people for their first spot, where people would rather go and park through Middletown and pay whatever they're charging for.
All I know is if I rented an apartment from a landlord and there was a spot in front of my house,
I would expect
and that landlord rented it out to some contractor down the street because he needed to store a trailer and he's going to give him $50, I'd be getting out of that lease as soon as I could because I wouldn't want to do business with a person like that.
But that is an arrogance piece of this board because I don't think that people here realize that Middletown doesn't just have apartments free floating in the wind for people to move into. So in a market where there's a ton of apartments laying around, yeah, go ahead and let the free market capitalist opinion
would fix
go ahead. But again, zoning is put there for its primary use, and you need to have, in order to rent apartments, you need to have electric, water, and sewer. The government says you need those in order to do the business you're going to be in. When you are a Sheetz, they say, hey, Sheetz, per your occupancy load, we need these parking spots that you need there in order to do your primary business. An apartment complex, an office space, their primary business is in renting rentals, and their primary business is in renting office spaces. In borough zoning, including people who are here and arguing this right now, were on the board when they said, hey, we believe that in order to do this business, we need you to have more parking spots.
So let me ask
Yet
you
borough
this.
doesn't go back and ever. I would love to pull the voting record and see who voted yes or no on that, because I believe that you voted yes at the time.
You use Sheetz as an example. If Sheetz is required to have 100 spaces for their guests, and Sheetz is undergoing a renovation, a roof caved in and they need to close a small section down, and they have 15 contractors that are going to take up 15 of those spaces during a month of construction. Should they not be allowed to use those spaces? Because they needed those spaces for their resident or for their guests, and now they have to service their building and they have some contractors parking in them. Should they not be allowed to use those spaces? Should the government come in and say, Sheetz, we mandate you have 100 spaces based upon your square footage, and if you have an emergency and you need to have 5 contractors come and fix your plumbing, you're not allowed to use those spaces because we're mandating it.
But okay, so here we are back to the same point.
But should government operate like that?
But listen, what you are saying, that is true that you should be allowed to do that. Because again, contractors coming into work on a Sheetz is supporting their primary business of having a gas station. So you can't have a gas station if you can't maintain it. So again, it's not that you can't not let anybody park there, but again, it's like zoning has requirements in order to do all of these things. If you want to do X, you need to meet these standards in order to do business effectively. And the borough does that as protections for its citizens. We've had this conversation, a couple of us have. So the borough has spent the time to put it in zoning code to protect their citizens, but nowhere do we ever follow through with the implementation of that. So if you are going to make me have 2 parking spots to do it and not ever hold me accountable, why do we require people to have 2 parking spots in the first place?
I think your real argument here is you're just upset because you want more rental spaces and you have to have parking to facilitate it. I think that's what the real issue is here, is you would like, the way, if I'm reading between the lines, you would like the borough to go back to one. So you
No,
can
I
have
wouldn't like the
more
borough to go
spaces.
back to one. I'm totally, and I put this on the record, I am all for 2 spaces. And I've been able to do what I need to do with meeting 2 spaces requirements and making the situation better. I am saying that the borough has a parking situation in town, and there are reoccurring causes that come up. And instead of looking at, hey, this is the symptom, what is the real cause, we jump to permitting and putting more work on our staff members that already it seems like we're running out of space and things, and these people have a lot of stuff to do. So instead of going again to address a root cause, we address a symptom with a Band-Aid, which is a permit.
So here's what I'm going to take out of this conversation, and then we're going to move on. The borough has talked several topics tonight about how we can benefit and better our parking with, we're painting some lines in certain sections of town, we're exploring permitting parking in certain sections of town, and we're looking into that to improve the quality of parking in the borough of Middletown. And I would ask you, as a landlord of this town, why don't you take the initiative and take the 2 parking spaces and give them to your tenants and let them use it, and that'll also help the borough and the residents and council. So we'll do our part, and how about you start by doing your part as well?
I do my part, because the part that I might not mention is that we require the tenants to give us all their license plates, and everybody that has a second vehicle does rent from our building right here. So I'm not having people park on the street that don't have assigned parking spots for the vehicle they have. Again, this is always spun back when you get up on council by one specific person of this great business wisdom. I'm going to tell you, there is things, like you had mentioned, about properties that have parking required are rented out to other people to do other things. One at which a person at your law firm wrote the lease to do, for a person who is an elected official at this borough. And then you also have large landlords that are not letting anybody have parking without charging them. If you're looking out for the backs, the people living in this community, again, you want to talk about all these solutions to spend taxpayer money, but you have people that are required to do something already. The borough decided you needed to do this. Just hold them responsible for what we've already decided they needed to do.
Well,
So
we appreciate your input and taking our consideration. Any other general public comment?
Alright. Let's just do rental inspections.
Any other general public comment? At this motion to have adjourned, we will be attending executive session. We will not be returning. All in favor? Aye. Meeting adjourned. Thank you, everyone.
I wasn't sure who said.
Did you get him in?